to D&D Declassified.
I'm Nathan.
I'm Philip.
I'm Jacob, and today we'll be talking about table rules. And these are rules that we have found that help foster respect between players and improve gameplay overall.
Respect. So the first topic we're going to approach today is table respect. By that we mean fostering a good feeling of respect on the table, mutual respect. Starting on that, we're going to be talking about touching other people's dice. So if people are antsy about it, I don't like people touching my dice. I don't want their bad mojo on my dice. So I don't like my dice. Yeah, I don't like my dice
looking
touched.
at your dice and rolling that 20. So.
Yeah. If he looks at him, I roll a 20. But
I just have bad luck with rolling the dice, so it doesn't matter.
Yep.
That's why you roll on the plate.
So we'll start with other people's dice. It's okay to touch them if they're okay with you touching them. From there, we'll go to political, religion, topics that you might not want to bring to the table. Some people are a little bit antsy about religion.
Yeah, they can be certainly contentious and can kind of ruin the atmosphere that you work hard to create.
Yep. So just remember you're here for a fun time, and your fun time includes everybody else's fun time.
Yeah.
So be aware of that. If you've got disagreements or if you're having a bad day, remember to leave them at the door when you enter. You're coming to the table to have a good time. So being respectful of that time for everybody else includes leaving your moods at home.
Yeah, everyone's there for a good time.
Yep.
Everyone, and it's okay if you're having a bad day, but just try and leave it at the front door because it can certainly clog up D&D.
Yeah, definitely it can. Anything else you want to put into the respect category?
Just respect other people's personal boundaries and make sure that they're comfortable.
Yeah. Including their personal space. We've had an instance where I had a player at a table who wasn't comfortable with people being too close to them, and this person kept touching them. They weren't happy with that. You've just got to be... It's okay if you're close friends, if you know each other, but not all tables of D&D are going to be people you've met before, or there might be a new player at the table, someone who hasn't played. You've got to be mindful of it.
As well, where it's like they've got those D&D days kind of thing. Just people you don't even know, and you don't know what they are about or who they are. So personal space.
So just be mindful of being respectful of other people. I mean, that's our first rule for D&D on your table rules.
And if you keep that in mind, you'll go far.
Yeah, you will.
Next topic we're talking about is avoiding distractions. This can lead to involve phones, or even just if you get a call or a text. I know that's a bit hard nowadays with D&D Beyond being a thing.
Yeah, a lot of people do need their tablet or their phone for those kind of applications, so it can become hard, but you've just got to remember to...
keep it to a minimum if possible. If you are using D&D Beyond, it's probably understandable to do that kind of stuff, but at the same time, don't scroll through stuff during combat as well.
Yep.
That
comes with knowing what you're going to do before your turn. So when everyone else is having their turn, try and look up what your plan might be or what spell you're going to use, and knowing in advance what that is.
Doing that will certainly help combat flow better. Yeah. And it's something, like you said, it's something to do when not doing anything.
Yep. But most distractions I've found as a DM on the table are people getting sidetracked with the conversation. So Jacob and I, Phil's DMing and we'll get into a conversation with nothing to do on the table. That's very distracting, not only for a DM, but also for other players, because we will start to take away from the feel of the table. So be very mindful of the conversations you're having. Most DMs will have a break, or there'll be a lull in the game where everyone has a chat, but you've just got to be mindful of avoiding those kind of distractions, because, like we said before with the respects, you're there for everyone on the table, so your conversation may hinder their gameplay. So
this topic we'll be talking about metagaming and why it's bad. I've certainly come across it in a lot of situations, all varying, and it ruins the gameplay and it clogs it up, and it's a really bad way of playing the game because it unfairly advantages you and disadvantages everyone at the table. So examples of metagaming could be it all sums up to using knowledge that your character doesn't know but you do.
Yeah.
Such as another player is a certain race that he wants to keep quiet, but you take actions with that in mind, or you look up monster stats, which I'm sure everyone has situations where that's happened. I've been at a table where we're like, oh, what kind of dragon is that? Aren't they resistant to this? And everybody went to their phones to look up the stats of that monster, and that was...
It makes it hard for a DM. I mean, metagaming can be anything from DM might run a dream sequence where, you know, your character knows something, or you know something from a conversation you've had with the DM. For instance, I've had in my campaign where I had a player join who wasn't going to join. I'd spoken to them about details about the campaign. They ended up joining the campaign from the conversations I've had earlier with them. They jumped on the table and reacted 100% in character from information they knew as a person. So that character did not know that information. They came on the table and started heading a different direction because they knew a city was burning down. Their character didn't know that, but they did. That metagame did change the entirety of that game because everybody headed to stop them because they had no reason to know why they were going that way.
Yeah, because it was completely left field, out of character, and made no sense. And what ended up happening was it unfairly... It put people that are in a bad situation that could have been completely avoided had they have not metagamed. And it kind of ruined that session because we all kind of left on a sour note. Because it ruined the flow.
We had to do a lot more extra work to backtrack. Even for like your side, you had to do a lot of shifting of content to fix into that
what had happened. So metagaming as a whole is basically what you know as a person is not what your character might know, and taking the knowledge you know onto your character. You just got to be mindful. If you're sitting at a table as a character, it's only what your character knows. If I talk to Phil and Phil tells me something, my character doesn't know that. If my character talks to Phil's character, then my character knows it. So there's a definite differentiation between your character and yourself.
Magical items as well, because some people like to keep magical items secret. Like they're like, oh, you received this from your patron. We at the table all know he got that item, and you to be like, oh, I know you got this item. Like, you know, no you don't, but that causes a lot of issues as well, because you want to keep that hidden, especially if you are those kind of classes like a warlock or a paladin who have items that are secret to their order or mission stuff.
So that's another thing to keep in mind. If there's a conversation between a dungeon master and a single player, they might do a dream sequence or a patron or whatever, a god, whatever,
a side quest,
if they're talking to that character and you're not in the room, well, your character doesn't know that, so you can't act upon what they've discussed. Even though you're sitting at the table and you heard it, your character's not there. So just be very mindful of what your character can hear or what your character can see versus what you hear as a person. And that's the baseline of metagaming.
One thing I'd like to add is sometimes, it doesn't happen often, but sometimes the lines between metagaming and not metagaming become blurred. Because as a player, become more and more experienced, and sometimes you forget, and it's okay. In those situations, all you have to do is say, "Hey DM, would I know this?" And that clears it up. The DM will go, "Maybe you do have history in this. Make a check," or he'll go, "You've never been to that area. You have no idea what's there." No.
And so that brings up a good point for me. An experienced player playing in a table with an inexperienced player, you get a veteran who's fought, a goblin 50 times, they're going to know a goblin's stats. Just be mindful if you are that veteran that, Joe Blow, who's never played before, has never faced a goblin. They don't know its stats. For them, it's the first time and it's exciting. If you start going, oh, I know they've got 12 hit points with their ACs high, and you've ruined it for for Joe. You know, just be very mindful of what type of metagaming. I don't agree with any type of metagaming. You know, if you're sitting at a table, you are your character. That's a good mindset to get into. When I pick up my character sheet, whether it be written or on a tablet or whatever, you are that character. And it's only what that person as a character is. Yep. So the next topic we want to broach upon is rules mistakes. Now, by that we mean, as a dungeon master, me personally, I'm still learning. I've been playing as a DM for 12 months plus, but I don't know all the rules. I mean, there's a crap ton of rules to learn. I don't know very many people, even Matt Mercers and people like that, still need to flip through to the rule book. If I, as a DM, make a wrong call, the best idea on the table is to say, hey, I don't agree with that. Can we have a chat about that later? If someone breaks into an argument about a rule on the table, it can take from 5 minutes to 20 minutes and you ruin the whole flow of a game. So rules mistakes are going to be made, whether it be by a player, whether it be by a DM. It's very much being aware that, okay, there's a mistake that's been made here. I know better than that. Can we discuss this in the break, after the game? You know, DMs are... I've got a sign on my DM table that says, it's in the handbook, and it slaps them and says, I'm the DM. DMs can obviously modify rules to fit the table. That's something to keep in mind. But if you're not sure of a rule, it's okay to ask. It's okay to put a pin in it and say, let's talk about this afterwards.
Because not everyone's going to know something obscure. Not everyone's going to know how does siege damage work off the top of their head, because it doesn't come up often.
Well, even the damage on a building.
Yeah.
You know, siege damage, or how many hit points does a building have? Well, you have to look that building up. A DM might just want to keep the flow of the table and go, okay, that building has 600 hit points. It may have 1,200. You're just going to have to wear it until the end of the session and go, actually, that castle wall would have, 1,200 hit points because it's made out of, that's okay, but they found a weak spot. Whatever, rules mistakes are going to happen. You've just got to, as a player, again, I find a lot more veterans who have taken the time to read all the books are very hard and fast about, this is the rule, this is how it's played. If you're sitting at a DM's table, hopefully they've gone through a zero session and explained, hey, I don't know all the rules, let's put a pin in it afterwards and we'll talk about it. Because game flow is very important in D&D.
It is. Being on the sidelines while there's been a disagreement between a DM and a player, it really stifles the flow.
It does.
It can go for anywhere from 5 minutes to 10 minutes. I've planned my turn, I've been waiting, and by the time it comes around to my turn, it's like, what's going on? We've just had this conversation on grapple, and could I do this, and what's going on? I don't know.
At the end of the day, your DM has the final say. If they make it wrong, just go, okay, I know that's wrong. Can we talk about that afterwards and get on with the day? Eventually, like we said earlier, it's about having fun on the table, and one rule mistake should not ruin an evening. And if you start picking on those rules, you're going to get a reputation of being the rules lawyer, so they call them.
And if you only have 4 hours or 5 hours of playtime, or even 20 minutes, that's...
that's a lot of your personal
just
time.
For a single ruling.
But
you don't have the time.
So rules mistakes will happen.